Hi there and welcome to today's video. My name is Kjetil, Lima Bravo for Foxtrot Hotel, and today I'm going to talk to you about this antenna, the Anjo-antennen endfed for 40 through 10 meters. In this video you'll see me rig the antenna up in 3 different ways in 3 different locations. First, it's very subpar in the forest, then it's pretty normal like here on the beach, and then the last one is as the manufacturer specified, which is at the end of the video. This is another commercial antenna, and as some of you commented on the last video, it was horrible of me to make unsponsored videos for commercial antennas. So today's video is unsponsored. There's absolutely no affiliation between me and these guys. They do not know I exist, and I purchased this with my own money at the Friedrichshafen Ham Show last year. So this has been a while in the making, and I've actually been using this antenna quite a while out portable as well. So that's a bit of what I'm going to talk about today. Before I'm going to rig up at this amazing location, I'm going to show you the unboxing of this. This is nothing insanely special. It is a end-fed half-wave antenna. It's 40 to 10 meters. It has a small loading coil here for the 40-meter parts to shorten the antenna a bit. And other than that, I believe this is a 64-to-1 transformer inside of here. I'll show you a close-up of that later. So again, nothing special here, but it's a nice and solidly built antenna. So what I got was the antenna here, nicely wrapped in plastic, and then 2 pages of documentation, all in German. So let's open it up here and see what's in the package. Let's open this transformer part first. This is a really nice and solid box. Looks quality made and has a BNC in one end and attachment for the wire on the other end. Should be really simple to get on and off, and probably really easy to drop somewhere in the field and ruin your activation. So I'll be sure to pack some extra ones of that. It's labeled here for 30 watts of PEP, so that's good to keep in mind. Then, on the other side here, this is the antenna wire you get in it. This feels really sturdy and solid. It's a good gauge cable. It's mostly flexible. It's not like rope, but still it's more than good enough here. And it's zip tied together, which means that we need some sort of way to wind this up. I'll probably just 3D print something. An isolator on the end here with a small eye that goes on this end. And on the other end here, what seems to be a little coil here, probably to get this to work for 40 meters. And then a tiny bit more of wire until you get into a nice solid insulator on the end here as well. So that was what it looks like when you get it, and as you can see, it's a quality built kit, and from a small vendor I think this is really nice. So now it's time to rig it up here in the forest. I'm gonna measure it with a nano VNA and show you some of the plots. That's of course gonna be affected by this specific locations and the conditions here, ground conditions, how I mount it and so on. But I'll show you how I mount it here and talk a bit later about other ways of mounting this. After doing the measurements, I'm gonna try a few QSOs on it. Not too hopeful today. The weather upstairs is a G2/G3 warning, at least it was when I left home. And I only have my old X6100 here, which pushes 10 watts. So I'm not too hopeful for that many QSOs, but well, it's an antenna and I can tell you it does work. So let's get rigging. My mounting plan is pretty simple. I'm gonna hang it from here, from this rope. And I'm gonna hang it behind you there in that direction and try to mount it roughly flat. So I'm gonna have it up in a mast going down there. And the reason for that is pretty simple. When I then get it here on this end, I will have it, well, what is it? Bit over a meter above ground level. So it's not gonna be touching ground. And over there it's gonna be rather high over the ground. Just a small correction here. This antenna is spec'd for less than 3-to-1 throughout its entire bandwidth. But that is when it's mounted 6 meters above ground in both ends, meaning that it's going to hang horizontal. and that is not very easy to do in a place like this. So I'm gonna mount it as good as I can here, and let's see what happens. So this is a pretty accurate way of how I would have mounted it if I was on a normal activation and not just filming for the day. One thing that you'll see that I've added to the kit that wasn't in the original packaging was this winder. This is just a generic SOTA beams winder, and there's no packaging in this radio to do any kind of winding out of the box. So for me, I've just added this one, and well, that's about it. At each end of the antenna wire, you'll find these nice insulators, and these are really nice to tie ropes to and whatever. So really nicely built. You can see here a small change from earlier in the video is that I've replaced this eyelet, and that's only my fault. I managed to drag that off by force while wrapping down the antenna in the first ones. So, well, other than that, this antenna is completely unmodified from when I bought it. So I'm attaching this just with a zip tie, and this one was conveniently placed here already, and that should provide some reasonable mounting for this antenna. One advantage of having the coil on the end here is that it shortens the antenna quite a while. So this is, I believe, roughly 10 meters of wire. So it should be quite nice to stretch down here, and maybe I don't even need to have a mast here. We'll see. This is as far as I could get, and the transformer is roughly 1 meters behind you. So this is a quite compact and small antenna. Really nice for this kind of operation. So now I'm just going to throw it up into the tree and see how far up I can get it and still get it down on the other side. And well, this is not perfect. It gives me a ground clearance of maybe a few meters, 4 or 5 meters in the middle here. It should be more than enough for this test here. And also quite a realistic usage scenario. And if this isn't proper, I'll mount it up using a mast and get it higher off the ground. But this is the kind of thing you have to deal with when you're operating portable. It's not going to be a controlled lab environment. It's going to be every location for itself. So on this end, you'll just find a BNC, standard, nice QRP compatible connector, and just hook up, and let's see how this looks on the NanoVNA. So this antenna is meant to be resonant for 40, 20 and 10 meters, and it actually looks pretty good here. Of course, this is really wide, and from what it looks like here, it is best resonant down at roughly 27 megahertz, and then goes up to like 28 megahertz and so on. So that could very well be the ground conditions here. And of course, if you have a decent tuner, such as the one you have in the X6100 or G90, that is absolutely not a problem. And one thing you will notice, I'm sitting really close to this. I'm also holding this in my arms and so on. So if you were looking at a video recording of this, you would see that it's popping around quite a bit, but well, that is also normal when you're moving around like this. So being a European antenna, it's supposed to be good for 40 meters from 7 to 7.2 megahertz. Every time I've rigged this up, it's mostly been good at the bottom end of the band, but this could also be the mounting and locations and so on. So if you're running digimodes with this one, it would not be a problem with 40, but for the higher parts of it, then maybe you would have to look at getting this one higher off the ground or something like that. For 20 meters, on the other hand, this looks really, really nice. And as you can see here, it just dips down around 14.250, and there it's 1.05 to 1. Basically, it's perfect. Looking at 10, it's best at the bottom end of the band. And of course, running QRP, you're probably not going to do very much FM or AM, although some people may do that. But this would probably not be the antenna for you, at least not with this mounting. I am going to remount it and see if I can get the end up and show you the difference. So the antenna is now remounted. It hangs from this tree, and up there it's roughly 2.5 to 3 meters above the ground. And then it goes down to a mast, down to the big tree there. And on that end, it's roughly 5 to 6 meters above ground. So that's about as ideal as I can get it here. So let's see how that affects the tune on the different band. So again, this is the same NanoVNA and the same coax. It's roughly 4 meters of coax RG58. And let's see how this works. And it's immediately not a huge difference. For 10 meters, the SWR is slightly lower across the entire band. So for 10 meters, this did help a bit. And also, I can tell you, if you had got this completely horizontal, as I've done before, the SWR for 10 would be a lot better. And here, the lowest SWR is 1.27 to 1, which is at the bottom. And then if you go up to somewhere you would operate as a QRP station, which would be for perhaps 28.350, it's 1.5 to 1 roughly. So for 20 meters, there's a tiny change, a tiny improvement, but it's not noticeable. It went from 1.318 to 1.243 to 1 at the bottom of 20 meters. So, well, it's still just perfect for that. Let's go and see 40. So for 40, the image is still not completely good. It is so for 40 meters, it doesn't look that good. Above 7.100, it's more than 3 to 1 all the way. But below that, it goes down to roughly 1.4 to 1 all the way in the bottom of the band. This is going to be a very unscientific test. I'm just going to see basically if it tunes up and see if I can do any kind of QSOs from here with my 5 watts. I'm highly doubtful about it. Yep, tuning at least completely okay, as expected. And let's see here, FT8. And it did receive 2 of them with -3 and -6 decibels. So I got a response, -11 from Italy Kilo 4 Lima Zulu Hotel. I guess most people know him already. And that's it. And whenever I bring out the X60-100, I forget how much I really love this radio. Such a nice little device, especially with the custom firmware. So I'm picking up US stations, I'm picking up European stations. So, well, it's pretty much as it should be, at least for this time of day. Down here at the beach, there's a lot more room than I had in the forest, and I mounted it as I usually did when I did it on summits or on parks on the air activations with lots of room. That means that I mounted this as an inverted V or an inverted L, depending on how I managed to mount it. Behind me here, you can see the transformer being there. It's, well, roughly a meter above ground, and on the other end, it is somewhere like 4 or 5 meters above ground. So it's not a perfect inverted V as it's mounted here, but it is how I usually use this antenna, and it seems to be the most practical one, at least when you're carrying quite lightweight antenna masts. If you want to have it like perfectly stretched, then you have to have something much more rigid, which I prefer not to carry too far. So without more talking, let's get some testing done here. This is very far from how this antenna is intended to be used. First, we'll take a look at the 40-meter band beside me here. And as you can see, it's the same as in the forest. It's pretty much good at the end of the band, but going over mid-band in the European section at least, it is not very good. And that's pretty much my experience, no matter how I mounted this. It has not been very good for 40. Looking at 20 meters, it is as good as it's been on any of the other mountings. It works perfectly, and to be fair, that's what I've been using it for the most as well. So for 20, this is completely okay. 10 meters is also exactly how it's supposed to be here. It's good towards the first half of the band or something like that, which is pretty much where everybody is operating, especially at QRP levels. I felt that this test wouldn't be complete without showing you what the antenna looks like when it's rigged such as the manufacturer specifies, which means at least 6 meters above ground level and horizontal. Behind me here, you may see the coax go up there and the transformer, and the antenna goes between an oak tree behind you there and one behind me here. Right above me here, the antenna is 6 meters above ground level, and in the other end, it's 8 meters above ground level, which means that this is as good or better than the manufacturer specifies. Of course, this is with my coax, with connectors and into a nano VNA. So with proper measurement equipment and probably proper cables going directly into the measurement equipment, you would probably get some better or different results than what I show you here. In any case, this is pretty accurate for what you would get. When you go to 40 meters, you'll see that SWR is good at the bottom end of the band, but towards the top it is still not perfect, and I would imagine if you go even higher up into the US section of the band, you'd probably be really bad. But it is workable with a tuner, and if you get the antenna even higher up than this, it would probably be a lot better. For 20, really good, and for 10, you can see there's a nice little dip on the middle of the band, and towards the bottom it's also fully usable with a tuner. So that's how this antenna is supposed to be mounted. And this is not something you're going to achieve while out hiking. At least it is very uncommon that you find two trees, there's nothing between them, there's the exact spacing you need or slightly more so that you can have some ropes in it and you can get throwing weights into them. That's not very common here in Norway, maybe other places, but it's not a very common usage scenario for portable operations. But as I showed you, you can work this in other ways as well. I have one more thing I want to try, and that is a vertical mount of the antenna. So now I flipped it around. I mounted it pretty much as vertical as possible. Antenna goes a bit over 10 meters up there, terminated here just to get it away from the metal railings, and from here and down it's around a meter or so. So the SWR here is different as expected. There are three very clear peaks for the bands, at least it looks like that when you look at it at the big scale. But when you go then to 7 megahertz, you see that it misses completely. It's at 6.5, 6.7 megahertz or so. Not unexpected, to be fair, but that means that vertical 40 meter is out. When it comes to 20, fully usable, not perfect, but with a tuner or even without a tuner, not a big issue. Also, 10 meters is pretty much okay. It's even much more flatter now than it used to be. But again, this is SWR measurements. It is not measurements for how good the antenna is. It's just a matching to the antenna. So with a good tuner, you can run it, but how the radiation pattern is going to be, very good question. Is it going to be efficient on receive and transmit? Well, who knows? So that's the kind of thing that you also need to test out. And at least now I've done some of the basic tests. I would never run it vertical like this. I would rather have it as an inverted V. It is much more efficient and yeah, pretty simple to mount as well. And also, I usually don't have this heavy mast with me. So I hope this antenna review was interesting to you, and I think I managed to show off how it performs, at least SWR-wise, and how you can mount it. And as I said, I have been using this quite a lot myself, and I've been really pleased with the antenna for a QRP antenna. It's solidly built, as I mentioned quite a few times, and it performs well on the bands it does. And with a decent tuner, like in the G90 or X6100, there's no problem to operate this antenna on different bands as well. So would I buy this antenna? That depends a lot on your use cases. And if you want to pay for an antenna or build it yourself, it's not hard to build these. But that's when you have equipment to do it, when you have the know-how to do it, and when you know how to test it. And if you're quite new to the hobby, you may not have that. And this may be a very good way to get into it, especially if you're doing QRP and you're planning to do that for quite a while. Thank you very much for watching. 7-3.